Welcome to The Point. This is our weekly recap in sports. So that means it's Thursday, October 29th. Wow, we already made it all the way to the 29th. Holy crap, where did we go? We're talking about week 7 in the NFL. Recapping that, we'll do a little overview on week 8. We'll talk about the MLB. With the World Series, we're done. We're into all these sports we have now is football. That's it, football. And I'm joined for the second week in a row, the wonderful, my favorite co-host, the wonderful Matt Hannaford joining us. Matt, welcome back to this dumpster fire of a sports show. How are you doing?
Well, hey, thanks for letting me come back for a second week. So either this is the best you can get or we did something right last week.
Actually, it's not this is the best we can get. Plenty of people lined up to want to come on the show. The difference is the people responded to you, and we went off of who do the people like. We don't really care who wants to be on. It's like, who do the people like, who engages the best with me, and who actually makes good picks, and we have fun about it. That's the most important thing when it comes to doing the show, is making sure people are actually, enjoying themselves and learning something. And that's what we do. That's what we do around here. People tune in and they watch. People like to watch us. So that's
awesome. Well, again, thanks for having me.
That's what we do. So it was an eventful week. So we'll start with our teams. Let's start with our... No, you know what? We're not going to start with football yet. Let's get the only sport other than football that just wrapped. Let's get that out of the way so we can say we did it. I am a fan of neither team. So I have no comments other than I really wanted the Rays to win, especially after that debacle on Saturday night with the, I don't know what you want to call that. Poor fielding in the outfield. A cutoff man who threw a palm ball instead of a two-finger fastball, which is like taught when you're like 6. Like everybody knows you don't go to the palm ball when you're trying to gun somebody out who just did a freaking quadruple. Like, I don't know what homie was doing, but he was doing cartwheels. And the boy has wheels too. Ultimate just mess up play. And then we get to, of course, everybody, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the end of the game, the Dodgers end up winning the World Series. But I don't know. You're the baseball guru here. You played more than I did. I finished in high school. So what's your breakdown of this series? I know off camera we talked about managerial mess ups. Saturday obviously is an issue.
And that's a great place. That's a great thing to talk about, and we'll get to that. I want to go back to that first play that ended the other game on Saturday. So I played catcher. The catcher's move, the catcher's sweep tag, the ball coming out, 100% understand how that happens. It's a tough play for a catcher, especially now that they've removed the ability to block the plate, where in that 5 years ago, the catcher was expecting impact into his leg. He just blocked the plate, tugged the guy, got run over a little bit, and it was over. Where now they can't block the plate at all. You have to give them free passage. So he's trying to sweep tag and the ball comes out. That error that actually ended up losing the game, I think was one of the things that I'm okay with. The outfield play prior to that is where I have as a player some confusion, because the guy on second base wasn't that fast. The ball was hit out hard to you. Why are you trying to snap the ball up and make a quick throw instead of making the throw from shallow outfield to the plate and just being done? Instead, you flip the ball around, you have to go run and get it, then it turns into it. He caused the circus. And that, to me, is something that needs to be addressed long term, because that's a coachable moment. And I mean, that's a managerial moment where you got to sit down and really talk to him to know the situation, because if you give up that run, it's no big deal. You go to extras, you figure it out.
Yeah.
But the fact that he did it and then compounded it with a bad next throw, and then it gets to the plate and the guy tripped, that's kind of one of those baseball gods plays. The second run scoring, oh well.
Yeah. It was crazy, though. I mean, I watched it, happen, right there on my TV, and was like, holy Toledo, that did not just happen. That was like a Buckner moment, right? I mean, equal to a Buckner moment. So.
Well, and that kind of leads us to the second thing that we talked about, before we got on today, and that's the managerial error. And in my opinion, there's nothing else that it can be called. When your pitcher is dealing and he's grooving, I understand these guys are looking at the metrics and doing this and doing that. And you see it in the NFL too, where, if we go on it on 4th and 2 in this situation, our winning percentage goes up to this. Great, regular season. Baseball is a groove sport that over the entire season, those averages work out. When you have a 1-game series that you have to win, why are you possibly pulling a pitcher, especially as he's getting to the top of the lineup, that he has 0 for 6 with 6 strikeouts? It makes no sense.
Nope.
And I mean, obviously, you can tell I'm a little animated about this. I was ready to throw my phone through the TV, and I'm not a fan of either team. Yeah. That's just bad baseball.
But that's just it's like the Rays had a kink in their armor, and that's their kink. You kind of saw it. I mean, but that's not even the biggest story. I mean, the biggest story isn't what happened on the field. I mean, it was after, but yesterday in the middle of all of this going on, third baseman for the Dodgers, his test results come back. He's positive for COVID. He is pulled, goes into the clubhouse, and no explanation is given. And then Dodgers win the World Series, and all of a sudden he's on the field running around with his teammates, mask off, and that's a big story because it's like, bruh, you just tested positive. Like, you don't belong on the field. So it's this kind of, I don't know where to take that. I've never won a World Series, so I really don't have a horse in this one. But COVID has changed everything, and it's just a different. It is interesting that somebody caught COVID in the World Series when they're in the bubble and have been for the whole time. So, but baseball and COVID testing has been interesting. That's kind of my thought on the whole. Should he be out there? Should he celebrate that and everything else? And I mean, he just about, if a millimeter higher on the ball, he hits a home run and blows that game open after the pitching change. Yep. Then he mysteriously gets pulled from the game, comes back out afterwards, and I'm kind of on both sides on this. I'm very personally, I've been trying to stay safe through the entire thing. I wear my mask every day at work. I interact with the public day to day, so I'm constantly hand sanitizing, wiping down everything. I want to stay safe. Yeah. But if you've been in that bubble, there's a possibility of a false negative, false positive. He's been around all of those people with no mask on for the last how many days? Yeah. He was in the dugout with them up until the 6th inning. In the contact tracing, they're already going to have the effect of it anyway. That extra couple minutes, in my opinion, and obviously I'm not a doctor, I don't think it makes a real difference. Optics, horrible. Optics are horrible for it. But doctor opinions don't matter. You've learned that. You're as much as a doctor as the President of the United States, so you just go with your medical opinion, brother. We're going to let you do it. But at a minimum, he should have at least had a mask on. Yeah. Because, we here in Pennsylvania, we've heard nothing but stop the spread. My mask protects you. He should have had the mask on. Absolutely. But not celebrating that moment, that one's hard for me. One, you won the World Series, maybe a once-in-a-lifetime thing. However, I get the safety thing, but you're around all those players, all those people anyway. The optics are the only thing that's really bad, in my opinion, on that one. True. I mean, and that's what I took away from it. It was, I get all of it. Maybe he talked to his teammates. We all don't know. I mean, maybe his teammates were fine with it. And the only person he infected was them. Come out and said they are. Yeah. I mean, and I heard one interview. He spent 6 innings in the dugout plus warm-ups with all of them. So really, we're complaining about something we saw after the game. His 6 innings that he was with them before, with them yesterday, with them every day. If they have it spread, it's going to spread. That's just how it is. But the series is over. Everybody gets to leave. And that's that. And we can put a fork in that and call it done. Major League Baseball season. I mean, complaining about it now is Monday morning quarterbacking at its finest. But the damage would have already been done at that point. I mean, if he would have done that and there wasn't a game 7, then yeah, I could see it. But this is over. Everybody's going home. They're flying back to LA, which LA had riots last night. I think LA just likes to find things to riot about. So that's what we're doing.
We had some here in Philly too.
You guys are different. Theirs are for sports. Yours are for police crimes. So those are different. A little different. Philly hasn't celebrated.
Different day, different topic.
Yeah, wholly different topic. We don't talk about politics on Thursdays on the show. It's my promise to America. Matt, it's Matt's fault. Anybody? There you go. That's your guy right there. Just need to talk about sport. Anyway, so let's talk about football. My favorite thing to talk about. Oh my goodness. By the way, I had a great fantasy week. Loved it. Went nuts. I scored second in most points in my league. The person before me, who I'm playing this week, scored 220 points.
Wow. It was a big fantasy week in general.
It was.
There was a lot of points scored, a lot of yards gained. It was a big fantasy week.
It was huge. So let's start. I was going to lead with, boy, the NFL doesn't like us today because we have another bad Thursday night game. It's not fighting a debate or anything. It's just a bad football game. Now, last Thursday's game, a lot of people glued to the debate, but that game was actually good. Your Eagles playing the Giants. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out what tripped that quarterback because that man went down like he was gunned with a sniper.
I was like,
Sniper. I mean, he just went down. I was like, bro, that was a touchdown. Like, he smoked everybody. And all of a sudden, I was like, dude, how do you fall like that? You uncoordinated idiot. How do you fall down? What tripped you? The glass?
I think was it Mahomes that came out afterwards and said something like, I can't say anything. I can't even run that far or something. So, I mean, the NFL had fun with it. They ended up scoring on the drive anyway. I mean, hey, I will admit I was wrong. I thought the Eagles were going to hand them, nothing in that game. If they scored 10 points, I was going to be impressed with the Giants. It was a little different game.
Yeah, that wasn't your messages to me during the game, I can tell you.
Hey, but my message at the very end of the game, I saw what was happening, and I put some money where my mouth was, and I won roughly $125 on a $50 bet. So I'll take it.
You take it. I mean, it was a good game for you guys. You guys have aren't you guys the sole first place team now, officially?
Of course, that tie, half game ahead, baby.
Hell yeah, there you go. See, there you go. The Eagles are in first place, and I mean the Cowboys. As of right now, the Cowboys do not have a starting quarterback. Dalton has not passed concussion protocol. They have this guy whose last name is more punter or kicker like. He doesn't even look like a quarterback. I forget where he went. Like middle under basket weaving state is where he came from. He's a seventh round.
Middle Tennessee State?
I don't know where it came from, honestly. I think it's like James Madison, actually. I think it's like James Madison.
That make a bowl game and you go, which of these two teams I've never heard of do I want to pick?
Yeah, that's basically what it was. This poor kid came in, and I remember I was sitting with my bud, and we were like, we're going to watch this. He's going to do good. Maybe he's going to come out. Maybe he's the next Brady. Nope. He definitely wasn't. You always have that. You see these seventh rounders come popping in. You always think maybe this is the guy. Maybe he's the guy. Nope, he definitely wasn't. He was. So the Cowboys are in an interesting spot. And to me, that's crazy for them to be as bad as they are. Of course, they're sticking to their guns and say it's their team. But a lot of talk is Ezekiel Elliott done because he hasn't looked good. Thought he would carry the team. The Cowboys just don't look good from quarterbacking to blocking.
And it's funny. When we talked last week, we were talking a couple weeks ago. If we were talking about the NFC East, Cowboys were going to they're going to be head and shoulders better than everybody else. Run away with the division. At this point, I don't think they have a chance. The Giants are the Giants at this point, and I don't know how it's happening. It's either the Eagles or the Washington football team, and if the Washington football team is the yes, I understand they're not in first place. In my mind, that's really the team to beat because the Eagles have to beat them. The Eagles have to continue to win. They need to win a couple non-division games. But to me, it's a two-horse race now in the NFC East. Which one can be the best or the worst?
Yeah.
Well, the Washington football team, I think, looks a little better. And that's hard for me to say. I mean, I'm wearing Eagles colors.
Yeah.
It's hard. But I have to be at least somewhat objective.
I mean, beating almost a defenseless Cowboys team, I guess, is bragging rights, but that's just, I mean, it's just a weird year. What can I say? We've got a Patriots team that's not going to make the playoffs unless they turn it around. Cam Newton was benched during a beautiful Niner destruction of them, which was payback and much well-deserved because the Niners have really turned it around in the last 2 weeks. The Dolphins help wake that up, and it helps when you're healthy. Jimmy G's ankle feels better in receiving course, catching the football, and George Kittle is just amazing, and defense just did their job. I think the biggest game for me watching, there were 2 games that I'm going to say were amazing to watch. One, that Steelers-Titans game, because the Steelers were amazing, but that came down to a missed field goal. Talk about the Titans. They're the real deal. I'll give them respect because they came back on that Steeler team. They stayed in the fight. They looked like they were just completely beatable at the beginning of that game. Like, Steelers just came out and did the Steeler thing. But that game was different. But the game I loved was the Bengals-Browns game. A game that you wouldn't think would turn into a shootout. It turned into a shootout. You have a big injury with, Odell going down, out for the season on an interception return. Baker, I didn't even start him. And then Baker goes off. Literally goes off into a 37-34 victory. That Bengals team they're on the wrong end of this, but they're in their rebuilding year. And you got to be happy if you see where they're at in every game. They're almost in every game. Like, it's one play away from being a winner. In fact, they had that game until that amazing Browns quarterback. I don't know, Baker just turned into a quarterback all of a sudden, and the week before he wasn't.
Anytime 71 points are scored, the offenses are kind of getting together and playing well. That's a college score.
It is
anymore. I look a lot at the betting side. The over-unders in the pros, typically, I'm going to say 42 to maybe 52 is kind of the max I think I've seen this year. 70 points, 20 points over a typical over-under. That's a lot of points.
What did you think of? And we'll pick on Nick Foles. What did you think? You know where I'm going now. What did you think of the Bears-Rams game? By the way, I called that wrong. I had the Bears as the team winning. I was drastically wrong because the Rams must have heard me. And Nick Foles, he looked like a Bears quarterback.
So, and that's really the thing. He looked like any other Bears quarterback for once, and that kind of makes me go back to, is it a quarterback issue, or is it an offensive or an offensive line, or is it a scheme issue? Like, there's something else there. The tide turned in that game very quickly, and the Rams just started running away because the beginning of that game was very back and forth. The one thing that I kind of pulled out of that game, because I was watching it above while I was playing some video games and just kind of getting some relaxation time in. Every time I looked up and the Rams had to punt, where did they put the ball? It didn't matter where on the field it was. He put them inside the 5.
Every time.
He punted from his own 20 and put them inside. It was only the 2 or 3. He punted from the 50. He put it on the 5.
He's an amazing punter. Let's just give that guy.
And here's the thing. Why is that not the norm? Because there's way too many punters out there. I'm sorry. We need 32 punters out of the entire population of the world. There has to be at least 31 other guys that can do that.
They're all soccer players.
So some scouts need to get to work, because not all these punts going through the end zone, bouncing out of the back of the end zone. I understand a bad hop, but you're punting it into the end zone every time. That's your only job. You don't do anything else. Oh. Maybe you hold. Darn, take a knee, hold the ball.
You just try to stay warm. That's what you try to do. Isn't that what punters do? They just try to stay warm during a game.
Pretty much.
They just wear
run around with a little coat.
They never get dirty. Anyways. Let's see. Going down. I like the Jaguars-Chargers game only because I have the starting QB for the Chargers on my team, and he just lit them up like he didn't realize he was a rookie quarterback. Joined Patrick Mahomes as one of the only quarterbacks to do what he's done since he's been there, throwing for over 300 yards and multiple touchdown passes. Here's a kid who doesn't know he's a rookie, and it makes this Charger team. And if you're a Chiefs fan, you need to not sleep. You could sleep on the Raiders because they don't look good. That team looks very beatable. you could call the Broncos done because they are. Again, they lost. We don't even need to cover that Chiefs game. Had nothing exciting happen to it. It was very boring. The Chiefs went in there and beat them 43-16, as expected. Like, that would be something that we would need to discuss if anything was exciting in that game. But I mean, even Mahomes only scored like 12 points in fantasy. It was just a knockdown, boring defensive game that the Chiefs just manhandled a very boring Denver team. And that's just all we have for that. But I mean, that Jaguars-Chargers game, the highlight was the offense. There was no defense because, again, 39-29. That's a college football game, not a pro football game. Or me playing Madden, one of the two. Gotta go off of that. We talked about the Raiders. I'm kind of going through this so we can get to because we kind of covered the big games. The Raiders got destroyed by the Bucs. Tom Brady walked in there again. That team, again, Gronk in the end zone again. That team's clicking now.
And here's the thing. Before the season, I had a lot of conversations about, is it Brady or is it Belichick? Which one was really the reason that they were the dynasty they were? Because everybody always puts the two of them together.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're seeing this year who was really, kind of pulling that team forward. And I'm sure Belichick has his spots and he has his rules with his team and everything else. But you can see Brady going down there to Tampa and just, no, enough stupid penalties, enough this, enough that, and he is willing that team to win.
Oh, God, yeah. And they're doing it, and they just added Antonio Brown. So, Brady got another toy. And Brown got the sit down and was told, you either behave or you're gone. So, I mean, they're winning.
Well, and the thing is, with Brady, he's going to behave.
Oh,
he wants to catch the ball.
He wants to win a Super Bowl ring.
Exactly.
He wants to be more than Antonio Brown in the shadows of Super Bowl wins with the Steelers. I mean, he has to make a good name for himself. He's hated throughout the league for his behavior. So we'll see if that ends up. I don't have him. I have him screwing up. That's just kind of what I believe he's going to do. I'm sorry. He couldn't work with Brady and the organization beforehand. It's going to be the same debacle. The guy is just a head case. And anyways, that's my 2 cents on that. The Packers destroyed the Texans. The Texans are just done. I mean, I feel bad for J.J. Watt, one of my favorite players in the league. Deshaun Watson, good QB. It just seems like they don't know where to go with their team when I watch, and it's hard to watch.
I think that's a team that team is just going to limp through the rest of this year. They do have a good core of players. I think they need a new coach that comes in and kind of whips things up. I kind of expected them to do that after they got rid of the coach. After O'Brien left, I really thought that was going to be like a spark for them, kind of like in the NHL, pulling the goalie because your team's down 3, and all of a sudden they come back and start scoring. Same thing. Get rid of the coach, shock the team, and they're going to come back, and they really didn't. I think the end of the year, they need a full-on reset, reprogramming. It wouldn't surprise me. They almost completely clean house, and it's almost an entirely new coaching staff, right down to the athletic trainers and strength and conditioning and everybody.
Oh, amen. I couldn't agree with you more. We already covered. We'll go through it just because we have to. Not that each week we won't say the same team loses, but you could probably guess what game I'm going to talk about. The Bills and the Jets. Everybody, guess what? The Jets lost again. I mean, they almost look like they tried. I mean, they were winning at halftime. That counts.
New York's kind of close to Cleveland, right?
Kind of. And their schedule ahead isn't easier. I mean, the Jets have a very hard schedule. There's a real chance.
Detroit. Maybe are we thinking of Detroit? Did Detroit move to New York?
Detroit did. Hey, Detroit won their game. They could say more. I mean, beating a Falcons team isn't anything to brag about because that's what's on after us.
They're 3-3. They won 2 other games too.
Yeah, I mean, they're winning. The Jets just aren't. It doesn't matter who you put at QB. Doesn't matter who you put at wide receiver. Doesn't matter who your running back is. It's just an ugly product on the field. And again, it goes back to what does this coach have on there? And now they can't win because now they're
I'm blaming Gary V. It's all Gary V's fault.
It's always Gary V's fault. Gary, it's your fault. Gary needs to own the Jets. He just needs to take them over because they're not being taken care of. The owner of the team, Woody Johnson, is an ambassador. He's the U.S. ambassador in the UK. He's not even here taking care of his team. And it's very clear Adam Gates has no idea what he's doing. So
time for Gary. Let's go, Gary.
Gary, you need to go buy the team. You heard it here first. We already talked about the Cowboys, Panthers, and Saints. The Panthers, hung in there for that game with the Saints. Drew Brees in his final year. Brees is starting to show that age. But the Panthers got good news. Monday, Christian McCaffrey started practicing again, which fantasy folks are like, thank you, because Christian is fun to watch. It'll just be interesting to see how he comes back and helps that Panther team that right now their leading rusher, I think, is Bridgewater. I mean, Teddy was entertaining sitting down on the bench next to Drew Brees. That was really funny to see. The Saints did give Bridgewater a chance after he suffered that really horrid injury. I can speak English today. Injury a few years ago as the Vikings quarterback. So it was an interesting game, and obviously we talked about it. So we're going to go to break, folks. We come back, we're going to talk about Week 8, talk about our picks. You can compare what we're doing, and we'll close out the show. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages. And welcome back. We're here, ready to close out. We'll have our picks for Week 8, and then we'll close out the show. Man, games we won't cover and give you our picks on is like the Chiefs-Jets. Patrick Mahomes has like Madden score on this one. I don't even know. I mean, it's...
Hey, real quick. Monday night, who you got?
Oh, Monday night. That's that Tampa Giants.
Tampa and the Giants. I mean... It's tough pick there.
Yeah, tough. Really hard. I'm going with Tom Brady. You got to go with that. All day. All that defense, Tom's not going to be respectful. He's got this chip on his shoulder. He's already put himself in the MVP running. The Seahawks have a tough game earlier on Sunday. They have this game versus the 49ers, which could make Tom Brady and Russ Wilson with the same records, both of them with 2 losses. So it could turn into an MVP run where you got to give the old man some credit. And I'm not talking about Russ. I'm talking about Tom. In the Giants, it's nice. I mean, the Bucs had a tough schedule to start. It's kind of nice to have these speed bumps along the way, like the Giants. So, it would have been a good game with Barkley. I mean, it's a good time. I mean, you're right. It's the NFC East. So, I'll start, and then you'll run through yours. Niners, Seahawks, like I said, Niners. That's a tough game. That's the 225 game for those of you playing at home. Great game, exciting. It'll be good to see Russ Wilson out there. They're coming off of a loss to Arizona, another division fight versus the Niners, who are red hot right now. Getting better. The Seahawks did just perform a trade this week. They traded with the Bengals, so the Bengals got rid of defensive end. I forget his first name. Last name is Dunlap. He is now part of that defense that's doing pretty well in Seattle. So it'll be interesting to see how this team performs versus this 49er team that is completely different than any 49er team that the Seahawks have faced. Usually they have Richard Sherman or a familiar face. This is a whole vamped up, different lineup with different running backs. This running back by committee is working. And these unknown wide receivers are really helping George Kittle when he has games where he's being heavily covered. It's interesting to see how they have countered with their run and their short game. Really calling into some good, strong audibles, lots of slants that a lot of defenses aren't picking up on because you have to respect the run because they don't have big running backs, right? You look at the Jets, I'm going to pick on them for a second like we do the entire show, but the Jets have Frank Gore. So when you think of a big running back, you think of a north-south runner like Frank Gore. You look at the Niners running backs like so many other teams in the league, they went with these smaller backs that can get up and down the field, but they can go left and right and make quick cuts that make these big linebackers, if they're not ready for that, and they catch out of the backfield, which is impressive. A lot of these guys are getting more yards off of passes than they are off of running back because if they shut down the run, they just go to their arm. And Jimmy G seems to be throwing better off that ankle. If the Seahawks can't get to him, that will be a game. Now, the points difference, which is interesting. The over-under is 53.5. But it's only a 3-point, for the Seahawks. So It's an interesting game because nobody really knows which way to win.
It looks like they're expecting a 28-24, 28-25, so somewhere
defense,
right in there. It's going to come down to that last-second field goal, that end-of-game drive. Both of those teams can do it. It's gonna come down to who can manage the ball well in the second half. And really, if you're not getting the ball at the beginning of the second half, managing the end of the first half and getting that last score or keeping them off the board. That's what that game's going to come down to.
So, do we really have any other? I mean, the only other big games that I'm seeing in there, the Patriots do. If you're going to look in the AFC East, the Patriots do go face the Bills. I think the Bills have no problem with that one. I think they're going to go in. There's a quarterback controversy brewing in Patriot land. Cam Newton already appears to have overstayed his welcome. The Titans travel to play the Bengals. You know, the Titans can't sleep on this one. And I'm going to call this my sleeper pick because I think the Bengals have the power to catch, if they catch this Titan team treating this team like the 1-5-1 team they are, but they're not. They are not. The way they look on paper by record, they're not a good team. That record, 1-5-1, is not good. But they're good. They have a solid quarterback. They could play spoiler and really screw everything up for the Titans, and Titans could take another loss, right? I mean, it definitely could happen. I mean, and that's my sleeper pick for the week. But I'll let you take the next few games because I'm done. I picked my picks, but I know we have that. Give me your thoughts on the Steeler-Raven. Obviously, we're going to save your game. You guys are the Monday night game or Sunday night game.
Sunday night.
It's a big game, too, so you get to close that out. So one of the biggest games, again, involves the Steelers 2 weeks in a row. Steelers face the Ravens.
So for me, this is the one that I think may get the Steelers off that 0 because that AFC North is tough to begin with. They fight no matter what. I mean, it could be the 1-5-1 Bengals, and it's still going to be a tough game no matter what. I think this is the week that the Ravens, with the leg that they have, end it with a field goal, break Ben Roethlisberger's heart, and they fall to 6-1, ties up the division. It's just going to be a real tough game. Ravens are favored by 3.5. I don't think they win by 3.5. I think it's a 24-23, a 21-20. I think there's a lot of field goals in this game, a lot more than we've seen over the last few weeks. I don't know that they get into the end zone a lot. Heck, it could be a 17-14 game. I don't think the Ravens cover the 3.5, but I do think they pull out the win on a last-second field goal, and it as no time remains. That's the game that I really see as being that fun game to watch because it's just going to be that knockdown, drag out, just old school football game.
I agree. I mean, and that's how those two teams play. Just to jump on it real fast, you're right. Yeah. Both of those teams, Tomlin and Harbaugh, the way that they coach those teams is you could think that they play everybody else in shootout format. Something about the Steelers, something about the Ravens. They get together and they play this smash mouth, what we were raised on, techno bowl football, where they just punch each other, and it's to see who comes down, and it does come down to the kickers. It's going to be cold. I was looking at the weather. It's going to be a cold game. That all comes into play, and you talk about field goal kickers. Both teams very solid. Obviously, the Ravens have the kicker of all kickers. Tucker is amazing. I mean, that kid's like automatic. It's funny, I flew once on a Southwest flight with his parents. I was like, man, why are you putting your parents on the back of a plane? Anyways, they were really sweet, great parents to have, flying Southwest to go see their son in the Super Bowl, by the way. That's where I flew with them. But, you know, just a humble guy for being automatic. I mean, I don't know. The Steelers and the Ravens, I still think the AFC travels through there. I think the Chiefs.
Oh, for sure.
The Chiefs are the team in the West. But they haven't really knocked my socks off this season like the Ravens and the Steelers have. Both of those teams have been very solid for an AFC team. The Chiefs haven't been. Last year when you watched the Chiefs, you were like, dude, they're the deal. They're real. This year you're not like, yeah, they're real, but they don't really come across as real. I mean, Mahomes had a horrible game. If his defense didn't bail him out, that game would have been closer than it was. But defense went bananas for the Chiefs. So
the other game that I'm looking at for Sunday, it's in the late set. Chargers, Broncos. And it sounds funny to say that. Broncos are taking 3 points, so Chargers are only giving up 3? Really? After the performances that we saw last week?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the game that the Chargers absolutely come out and walk all over the Broncos and show that they're not the 2-4 team that they're sitting at right now.
So you're going to do that pick despite how good as bad as Denver is on paper, how good their defense really is at stopping the pass.
But hey, I think this is the week that they saw what they could do last week. They're coming off that confidence. I think they're going to pick the Broncos apart. I think they're going to find it might be a little dink and dunk and everything else, but I think that's the way that game goes, and I think they win by definitely more than 3. Okay. I think that's probably a 5.5, 6.5 should be the spread on that one.
Ooh, I like this. I like this because, number one, I have the Chargers QB on my fantasy team, and it's been that Baker. I'm not going to pull Russ Wilson. Let's just be very clear. Russ will play. Russ plays, so we have a second spot for QBs in our league, and it's that toss-up. Every time I bench Baker, he goes off. Every time I sit a Bear, he goes off. Or Herbert, or whatever the hell that kid's last name is. I don't know why. It's A-Bear, right?
Hey, Bear.
Herbert, A-Bear, whatever we're going to go with. But you could be right. I'm just looking at that defense. They have stopped the pass. They did shut down the great Patrick Mahomes just this past week. But you never know. So that's your sleeper. So we both have interesting sleepers, and we're both depending on rookie quarterbacks to be the upset of the upsetters. I like it. And finally,
exactly.
Your final. You close out the show.
So,
it was your birthday last week. The football gods.
They gave me a hell of a present at the end of the game.
They did. They gave you a gift.
It took till the very end of the game. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat.
They did. They gave you a birthday win. They gave you first place, which makes you a happy Eagles fan. And then you go into Sunday night, Chris Collinsworth, Al Michaels, the Cowboys with fill in whatever fan shows up wearing a Cowboys jersey. His QB.
This game in general is a lot of fill-ins. I mean, you're seeing guys on the field that if they put that jersey out at like Modell's or any other sports shop, you're going to go, who?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Is he a real player? Or is that like a custom jersey that some Joe Schmo in the stands got?
Yeah.
That they just happened to put in there because they made too many of them.
If both teams take injuries, I hear that you guys have agreed, the coaches have agreed to just change jerseys for each player, so they can both play both ways if they need to.
We can play on both teams, one in the first half, one in the second half.
Just going to rotate.
And
like you do in Little League.
Get hurt, they'll come out and arm wrestle for the win.
Like in Little League, when you don't have enough people on one team and you need to fill in the fielders, you do it in the outfield. There you go. Same thing.
You go play right field, Johnny.
That's what we're doing in the NFL. I shouldn't say that. Obviously, we actually agree on this pick, but I want your insight on it because it's an interesting game. And it's just the Cowboys and.
Here's my thing though. I think the line on this is a little bit too high. It's Eagles minus 7.5 right now. I'm sorry, I'm not that confident in the Eagles offense. Now, with that said, I don't think Dallas is going to be able to do anything offensively. Defensively, they're up in the air. It depends on which Wentz shows up, because if Wentz turns the ball over deep, they can kick field goals and stay in the game. They can get 2 first downs and maybe tuck it into the end zone. So I think Dallas still stays in this game. I mean, my early prediction on it, I'm going to say probably like a 24-17 Eagles, but I'm all over the place on this one. I can't decide which way I want to go. I think I'm just not even going to touch it. Because the Eagles can come out and score 40, or they can score 14. I got nothing. That game scares me.
Well, don't bet on it and just go for your team.
NFC East.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not going to.
That's how I feel about the NFC West. That's why I'm not touching that Niner game. I'm going to cheer for my boys, but not going to put any action behind it just because that's scary. And there we go. Week 8, done. Boom, we did it.
Just like that.
Matt and Eric's picks, you heard it here first. You always will hear pro Eagle and pro 49er stuff here. So if you're a fan of neither of those two teams, probably not the show for you. But I think we give good picks. I think we're pretty fair. I mean, clearly we like certain teams, and the Jets are not our favorite. So don't buy us Jet jerseys for Christmas because we'll burn them. That's what I have. That's all I have, folks. That's what we have. So, Matt, I want to thank you again for joining us. Everybody, you see our picks every Thursday. We do this wonderful show so you can come on and get the best information for your fantasy leagues and anything in your betting lines for your Sunday football action. Got a boring game for you tonight. Sorry, we apologize in advance. We don't make the NFL football schedule. It's just really boring. So if you have nothing better to do on a Thursday night, check out the Thursday night game. Rumor has it they get better as we get into Thursday night football. Further into the season, we get into November and get into real football. But hey, NFL and college football, all you have. Remember next weekend. Got to get my weekends right. Next weekend, so after our next show, we bring back in the Pac-12. So we get more and more college football coming back in. It's getting interesting, getting fun. It's fun to see football back full swing. It's the only sport we have, folks. I don't know when hockey starts again. Major League Baseball, they're done till at least April. So we already all know that. NBA either wants to play on Christmas or the beginning of February. They can't make up their minds. All I know is free agency for the NBA starts in mid-November. Yes. Finally get to go through that. So we'll see where we end up there. But Matt, thanks, bud, for joining us this week again. Always fun to have you on.
Thanks, Eric.
Any closing words? Any words of the wise? Nothing?
No. I mean, hey, thanks again for having me. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Give us feedback down below.
Awesome.
Or wherever you give us feedback. Wherever Eric wants to give us feedback.
Always give us feedback either below in the comments here on YouTube or on Facebook or on C-Suite TV. Or you can send us an email at hello@tothepointtv.com. And you can leave us comments there. You can pick on me, pick on the co-host, pick on our picks. Recommend to be a guest and join us. Join this wonderful duo and become a trio, whatever you want to do. We'd love to have you on. As always, on behalf of our team, our co-hosts, all of our guests, we want to thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you tomorrow on Friday when Jordan and I come on, and it's our What the Happened This Week episode. So make sure you join us tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. We're done. That's what we need.
Let's get to the point.